You were tuned into the Kickback Reloaded with me, Diamond B, and I got Mr. Jordan P. I didn't even intend to say that. That's pretty dope. I'm a cheese ball, but whatever. We're going to hop right into it. So, I recently did a music review for a song. What is it? The Stars Shine Darkly?
These stars shine darkly.
So super dope. I never got so excited to actually break down someone's music and be able to pull things lyrically and be able to interpret it. Like, your art is definitely appreciated. So, with that being said, you do have a album that you plan to drop on September 21st called The Observant. What can we expect from that?
Okay, so what you can ultimately expect is, for starters, a real essence of hip hop. Understanding that hip hop started, on some of the basis of the Zulu Nation and from 5%er, info or terms of knowledge and things like that. Whereas though, it wasn't so much about the vibe, although the message brought a vibe. So you can definitely expect, a heavy hip hop nature there, a very intrinsic nature, as you can see from the music out so far, and just exciting, exhilarating music that's really going to bring you something, food for thought, some real empowerment for the brain and influencing change and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you definitely are a gem dropper. If it's not you saying it, you putting something out there, you like, I just need somebody to see it just to pass your knowledge around, which is very important for anybody that knows something. The best thing to do is to pass it on to teach someone. So I personally write long captions, and some people read it, some people just scroll by, but it really be some good information in there, and you do that as well. So staying on the topic of hip hop, you did at some point talk about the difference between rap and hip hop, and I would like to hear that from you.
Okay, so to somewhat go off of what I began to mention earlier, hip hop was this infrastructure instituted by, I would say the Zulu Nation. Some would others say the Zulu Nation, part of a group of individuals, centered around that as well. And I won't say it's mutually exclusive to that degree, but that's from what I understand. When you look at the B-boy, the MC, the DJ. But to the point, it's like hip-hop somewhat instituted these pillars of black community and culture. And it was a form of media to help sustain that and preserve that. And now in today's era, and not to say rap has found its birth in today's era, because rap is a nature of what hip hop is, but there's a point when rapping loses out on these pillars that were instituted by the gods of hip hop. You know what I mean? And it just becomes rap. Now, rap has its derivatives. You got trap. You got today I like to say rock rap, or mumble rap is what other people call it. And it's simply what I would say, to put it simply, is contentless, but at the same time it's vibe driven rap, whereas though hip hop is content driven, and the vibes somewhat catch from that or the content itself.
So do you feel like hip hop is dead, or you feel like it's resting somewhere just waiting for it to take over mainstream again?
Hip hop can, won't, and will never die. And I say this because it's as to say the past never existed. That from which something derives makes it no different than what it derives from. We are Homo sapiens sapiens. It's the reason why we add an extra sapient. You know what I mean? We're not much, but the difference is the development in the frontal lobe. We've evolved. We've become better. But the atom itself is still the atom. I mean, as we progress, we become quote unquote better, or we evolve based on the nature of change of the universe itself. But hip hop will never die. It'll never go away. I think ultimately we have to ask ourselves, as we begin to ponder that very question, why do we like what we like? Why do we listen to what we listen to? Why is it there?
Why?
Exactly. And so when we look at the shift in culture, when record labels really took over the culture of music itself, and then we look at the redundancy that exists in the media today, people want to perpetuate the very same system over and over and over again because that's what people are sticking to right now, and it's all about money for certain individuals. You know what I mean? And so in order to really capitalize on, you know, that new sound, that new what it is, you know what I mean, they keep the cycle going until something new comes along, you know what I mean? Because before, and we could look at it like this, before Chief Keef, right? Because Chief Keef what one would consider the basis for what current or popular music is today. Okay. Popular music being Drake and mumble rap. You know what I mean? But Chief Keef is that individual. You know what I mean? Prior to Chief Keef, who do we have? 50 Cent, who helped drive a nature of popular rap music. You know what I mean? And so we see derivatives of these major pillars. And I'll say even after 50 Cent, I'll put Soulja Boy in there. Because, I mean, Soulja Boy, Lil B. You know what I mean? But, you know, I think I veered off from the question a bit.
It's okay. But, I'm all for it.
You know what I mean? So much so that I forgot it. But but yeah, I mean, that's my sentiments in that regard.
So why did you choose to go the music route?
Okay. So people don't I'll throw this out there for a Nardwuar interview one day, I guess. But
I love him.
Yes. But I actually have been rapping like as old as I can remember, as early as middle school. A lot of people. I made this once. You ever heard that song "Brooklyn Girls" by Charles Hamilton?
I have not.
Charles Hamilton, Brooklyn Girls. Okay, so it was this other guy from PG who dropped this song. I think it was like Lando Fly. He dropped this song called Bowie Girls. And at the time I was living in Bowie. And I used to be recording on like MP3 recorders. Like with a beat just playing in the background, my man Mikey Yayo at the time. And, you know, I used to just be rapping like that. And I picked up a small little following within middle school. I went to Bowie High School at the time. And I was rapping like that. And then, you know, toward the end of high school, I wrote this song called What's the Move? And it caught on to quite a few individuals. I performed the show at Coast to Coast and everything. And I dropped a mixtape called This Is Merlin Ass Shit. I was a very different individual at that time in terms of knowledge of self and understanding myself. So, I mean, as it relates to music itself, I've been doing it. Like, it's just a nature within myself that, I don't know, you know what I mean? Whenever music is something that drives, you know, it's a passion of mine, you know? And it's a great outlet for, you know, me being this philosophical teacher or understander or speaker to really express myself. So, I mean, the reason why I chose music, I'd say music chose me, or it was in my nature to some degree as it relates to how art is manifested in the world we live in today. And, you know, ultimately why I chose the music that I do is because when we study music, I mean, I went to Morgan State University, and, you know, just taking some of the classes I have and meeting some of the people that I have and gaining this exposure to knowledge. They say college is a place where you have an ability to learn who you are and learn yourself. Yeah. And I was going to Morgan State University. This is at the rise of conscious social media. You know what I mean? And so a lot of people use social media to validate or be an extension of the mind. Whereas though for myself and being in an Institute of Higher Learning and having the professors that I have, like the M.K. Asante's, you know, the exposure to all these people. He wrote the book Buck, by the way. But you know, I began to study myself and where I come from and my answer. I was taking classes like African diaspora and world history and things like that, studying Walter Rodney and Patrice Lumumba and things like that. And I started to realize that I'm not just this guy from Prince George's County or Washington, D.C. or the DMV area. I'm a black person connected to all black people throughout the diaspora. You know what I mean? And this nature of regionalism no longer held me back. And so I started to study so many different things, and I started to gather so much information, and I realized that, you know, Mos Def, Busta Rhymes, you know, when disaster strikes, Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, like this, a lot of the music that helped drive music, even John Coltrane, Alice Coltrane, the Funkadelics, you know, Parliament, what helped drive their music was this cohesion of, or this cohesive knowledge of knowledge of self and the nature of blackness. And, you know, as I further studied and got into it, I realized that that is what hip hop was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, sheesh. I mean, all I got to do is be black and be who I am. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's what really pushed me to the music, you know, that I create today. So
I'm all for it. First of all, I really aspire, it just in this conversation, to work on my memory skills, but in a sense where I'm reading something and I can be able to quote something and tell you who the author was. That is so powerful, to read that much literature and it resonate with you and you be able to recite that back to someone, just how people are able to quote Bible scriptures. Like, that's something that I aspire.
Yeah.
And just being able to hear that, it's just really refreshing.
Yeah.
That's super dope. So back when Instagram was, I guess, 15-second videos, you decided to post something on privilege. And I believe maybe it was like 3 to 4 parts, but I would like you to speak on privilege.
Wow.
What is that?
Okay, so privilege. Privilege, I would say, within the context of the society we live in today, is the ability to benefit from the system within it, in a very simple fashion. If, you know, and of course we'd have to understand the system itself, but I think that we can gather from what we know in that regard. But you know, to go further into that, you know, and some people relate the nature of privilege as white privilege or international privilege or black privilege. We all have our own domains of privilege, but it all goes back to this term or this essence of wokeness. We can all fall asleep to this system. We can all go get a job, work a 9 to 5, strive to be the best we can be in whatever environment dominated by European standards, you know what I mean, or whatever standards, you know what I mean, and just fall asleep to it and never influence any change. Know that there's people out here selling disease, destroying Africa, and not care, you know what I mean?
Right.
Not care, you know what I mean? And so when we talk about privilege as Americans within America, you know what I mean, we are considered the house niggas of the world's oppression. And that is our privilege. We live in a society where we can watch the catastrophe on TV and not be motivated to influence anything or any change. I can be Lil Uzi Vert and drop a song called whatever, you know what I mean, and not have anything to do with influencing the change of the collective consciousness, and it'd be the best song on the radio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that is the privilege that we have as American citizens. We can break this down in multiple facets, you know what I mean? But, and you know, I believe the definitions are out there, but I mean, in a very simple fashion, that is privilege. Privilege is the ability to see the problems that exist, not be affected by them, and not be motivated to change anything in your life stays as you would imagine it. Understanding the way that you would imagine it is a conditioned understanding itself. Because to exist and look at the world as we know it versus the world as it is and say, my life is fine.
Yes. And I'm happy that you gave the Lil Uzi reference, because I think when the word privilege is spoken, our mind strictly goes to white privilege. And while they're able to, you know, get certain things or get by with certain things, and, you know, we don't have the same consequence. But it's not just that. Sometimes it's you having you're on a certain caliber, like your fame, you know, omits you from having to deal with certain things.
Right.
So I'm happy that you spoke on that, so someone can look at it from a different angle,
right, and
as well.
And just to give a bit of a deeper context, there was a movie or in book written in the 70s entitled The Spook Who Sat at the Door. And to go a bit deeper into the nature of privilege in that regard, it's like, you know, we can blend in with the system. Anybody can. You know what I mean? It is called the Americanization through education. Kill the Indian, save the man. Is a theory you can read about in that regard as well. Even when you look at Booker T. Washington's Atlanta Compromise and what he was talking about in terms of how the Rockefeller family funded HBCUs like Howard University and what have you. And that's why he created the Tuskegee Institute, because they were looking to formulate a bourgeoisie or middle class to sustain the system and society as we know it.
Yes.
So...
I'm all for
Not
that.
just not any
Yeah,
no hate to my HBCUs
I
out
got
there.
you.
You know what I mean? 'Cause
No, I got you.
HBCU graduate. You know.
Check you, Morgan State. So this might seem random. It might not mean anything, but when I read it, I didn't make the connection. And so you wore a shirt a few times on your page. It's featured up. Might be your favorite shirt. Could have been the same day. And it said, "Make tricks, not war." What does that mean?
So, another fun fact. I grew up a skateboarder. Made this song way back. It's called Skrillin', Skateboard Chillin'. It was a pun on Wale's song.
DC Chillin'.
Yeah, DC
Yeah.
Chillin'.
Mhm.
So it was actually a remix of that. But make tricks, not war. What that meant was basically, and if you looked closely, I mean, you couldn't see it from a picture, but
Yeah.
it was a bunch of skateboard tricks within the word itself. But it's somewhat motivated like this nature of like peace, you know what I mean? Like, you know, given the dogma that exists within the world and the negativity that's perpetuated within the world, understanding that, you know, the nature of, and I'm not saying, you know, I know there's a lot of buzzwords in terms of negative energy, and people don't realize like ions are a negative charge.
Yeah.
And that's a very important facet of our existence as, you know, human beings, but whatever. But, you know, as it relates to the connotation of how we perceive things today, you know, it's a lot of negativity perpetuated out here. And, you know, I remember it was this quote my dad used when I was growing up. He was like, "He's a lover, not a fighter." You know what I mean? And I was like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? I really realized my own basic nature through learning myself. It's like I've always carried this nature of like wanting to strive for peace and like, you know, positivity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's what that alluded to. Make tricks, not war. Like,
So tricks was like in terms of like the skateboard, but it's like having that thing that gives you peace, that makes you feel free and not creating some kind of chaos.
Right.
That's dope. So I have been avoiding this documentary. My boyfriend even like said, "Let's just go ahead and watch it," and I'm like, "Nah, bruh. Let me eat some more." You definitely watch What the Health. Okay. Did your life change after it, or did you for that week be like, "That's how I feel," or were you already living that way?
So I've always been a health conscious individual. A lot of people don't know, when I was very young, I was like 14, 15, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. It's a form of IBS. And growing up, I mean, as a young kid, and when you know, just how, you know, the you know, media is driven, and especially the young kids, with all these sugar infested cereals. And I feel like our generation had it worse because we didn't have so much, you know, we didn't have such a large platform to perpetuate positivity out here, and with an independent source like Netflix to help provide us with this information without worrying about any nature of like, you know, the powers that be really trying to hold it back.
Right.
You know, I used to eat just horribly, you know, especially growing up in a particular environment, you know, where food deserts are pretty prominent. You know, you eating fast food every day and all this negative food, it's like, boom, you know, when I was struck with ulcerative colitis, I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? I'm in the hospital 10 days for my birthday, can't eat shit. You know what I mean? And so from that moment on, I really questioned like what I ate and what I put into my body. And when I got to college and I got to learn about things like that and took a nutritional science, walked in some classes, learned some information in that regard, you know, and even as conscious social media started to begin to rise, I can remember seeing a post about, you know, being vegan or vegetarian, and immediately, I guarantee you, from May of the end of my sophomore year to like, you know, until like December of the same year, I ate nothing. I went to the refact. We called it the refact, but it was like, you know, you swipe your card to go eat or whatever on a campus or whatever. I was literally eating salad with no salad dressing every single day.
That's how
working out, reading, because it really struck this nature of paranoia, and it instilled this nature of fear within me. And, you know, through learning meditation and things like that, I learned that wasn't healthy. But then I also began to, you know, study and learn a bit further that, okay, you know, to do the real research on the diet and learn about the diet and learn about what that meant. You know what I mean? So ultimately, as it relates to that documentary, it really helped validate a lot of the things that I studied prior to watching it. And, you know, some of the things I'll say about that documentary is a scare tactic, because I'll say that, you know, and with a lot of people out here saying, you know, be vegan, be this, that, and third. Listen, we've come so far as human beings. Some of us can never be vegan after eating meat for 10 plus years or
Yes.
20 plus years or ever since we've
Agreed.
born. Eating certain things it alters our DNA. So, and of course DNA can repair itself, but it's like, it's to the point where like a lot of people are selling certain diets that might not be healthy for every lifestyle. You know what I mean? So I would just, in terms of the information out there, be cautious and tread softly, and first and foremost, know yourself. You know what I mean? First. So, and not to take anything away from, you know, the being vegetarian or being vegan. I'm currently vegetarian. And
I'm about to say, are you a meat eater?
Yeah, I'm currently vegetarian. You know, unless of course my grandma's cooking the curry goat, the oxtail, you know, or my fiance is cooking some Chicago native meal. You know, but you know, the key is balance. The key is balance. You know what I mean? And knowing what to stay away from. Like, you know, we can go into it, but the number one thing, sugar, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's just knowing what to stay away from and incorporating balance within your life. You know what I mean? That's the key. Balance.
Balance, definitely. So, with it or quit it, it's a segment that I have. So, I'm going to give you some statements. You tell me if you with it, that means you agree. Quit it, like, nah, I don't. And then, of course, elaborate on it.
Okay.
So, this first one, America is overpopulated, leaving us with scarce resources, lack of shelter, plans to eat, and materials to make clothing. That's why prices are going up on everything.
Quit it.
All right.
Quit it.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, listen, Texas alone has enough state to fit every single American citizen in it, all right? Or enough, you know, area. But it's this nature of fear that is instituted within American citizens to maintain control, and I'll leave it at that. And I you know, just to go a bit deeper, it's just, we can always create for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of information on YouTube, and even more importantly, it's a lot of information in each one of us. Listen, they say if you want to gain some knowledge and information, go lay in the grass. Take your shoes off, take your socks off, take your shirt off, or whatever you may do, you know what I mean? Go lay in the grass, and you'll get some information. You know what I mean? The universe speaks to us in silence, you know what I mean? In a language that the words that we speak can't speak, you know what I mean? So, I mean, in terms of what we need, the universe provides us to that in a natural fashion. So, you know, that, I would say that quote there somewhat speaks to the institutions that we've all given into. If we watch the movie The Matrix, we'll find a bit more information as it relates to what I'm alluding to. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for that. So, people need to invest in purchasing grams of gold because the worth of the U.S. dollar is unstable.
I mean, understanding, with it or quit it, I'll answer that first. I wish there was an in between, but I'll say with it in the sense that, I mean, understand that I would say that the gold market is pretty much on lock. I mean, after Muammar Gaddafi got killed, you know, and considering how much gold the United Kingdom has right now in European countries who got it from other places like Africa. But anyway, you know, I'd say first and foremost, I mean, I don't care about money. You know what I mean? Money, I think, is a figment of the mind itself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas though, you know, if you look at it, indigenous or Aboriginal societies within Africa, or pre-modern societies within Africa, you know, cowries was a form of cowries were a form of what the dollar would be today. But what meant more than cowries, if we read the book Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, he references this. You know, giving someone a donkey or a fruit, or yam, things like that, was worth more than the physical dollar. So I would say, yes, investing in a natural resource of some kind is much better than some dollar, which is just a Federal Reserve note that says we are obligated to pay you what this is worth. But that $50 bill 100 years from now can be 50 cents.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
You know, I would say that, and I'll say this. I mean, some people don't believe in banks for that very reason, but when we study, you know, the Medici family and somewhat of the origin of the PayPal system, we will gain a bit more information in that regard. Medici family kind of reverts to back to Niccolo Machiavelli's book, The Prince, that he wrote about in that regard. And that was what Tupac based his persona of Machiavelli from. But yeah.
All right. So the next one, vaccines post-birth are unnecessary. Babies develop complications because of these injections. You with that or you quit that?
I'm with that statement. Honestly, like I said previously, nature defines all things. Considering the fact that, yes, there are a lot of diseases with patents and that have been genetically engineered and pumped into our society, men's cell disease, or people make money off of this. I mean, but I would say, or off of the health industry, people make money from. But I'd say, yeah, I'm not with vaccines at all. Now, I would say, I've read a lot in the nature of the exploitation of the hazard of vaccines, and I will say, from what I've read, the premise of what a lot of people speak from is not a definite don't get vaccines. You know what I mean? Because people in this room, yes, we've all been vaccinated. Yes. You know what I mean? Because we didn't have that information. Some people haven't since the dawn of time. I mean, if you're a Mormon or something, you know what I mean? But or Jehovah's Witness, you know what I mean? But I'd ultimately, I'm not neglecting the information out there, but I think we have to understand that in today's society, the age of information, there is so much information put out there to create confusion so that you wouldn't, it's no way you can know the right answer for sure. Right. So what I'm saying is make the decision that you think is best based on the knowledge that you have and learn from it and whatever the outcome may be. But me personally, I'm not with vaccines.
So with that, do you have children?
No.
If you are blessed to have a baby and it just works out in your favor and it's supposed to happen, is this baby getting injected and born into a hospital, or are we having a natural birth in the pool of the home?
So, depending on the vibrational frequency of my fiance at the time, we really believe in a holistic lifestyle. For the first time around, I don't recommend a home birth for anybody. So most likely in a hospital, and a voucher will be filled out for no vaccines, you know what I mean? Because that is very something that you can do, for whatever belief basis. A lot of people don't know that. They think that, I have a baby, he has to get vaccines. No, you can sign documentation saying, I'm not with that. But then at the same time, there's this liability clause where we're not responsible for anything that happens to your baby 10 days after birth or something like that. You know what I mean? So they try to employ the scare tactic in that facet, but first time around, in the hospital, no vaccine. Second time around, home birth, find me a swimming pool at Walmart or something like that.
That's what I'm talking about. That's dope because I didn't know that you can sign a voucher and say, I don't think that I ever thought that you have to get a vaccine, but I never looked at maybe a possible another option.
Yeah.
So you definitely just taught me something right there. So before we get out of here, when your album drops on September 21st, the day before the girl turns none of your business, where are we finding this? Like, where are you streaming your music?
Everywhere. Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, SoundCloud, everywhere music is found, honestly, and anywhere music is found. I also have hard autograph copies for those out there who, we live in an era where CDs don't matter anymore.
No, it does. I need.
Okay.
Because I don't have Tidal, Apple Music, right. iTunes, don't know how to use it. My man is an artist, and he definitely made me a CD.
Okay, so. Yeah, and I believe in that pastime, like cassette tapes and, vinyl. So, yeah, I also have in-hand hard copies available for pre-order as early as September 15th as well. So it'll be everywhere music is accessible.
That's dope. So where can we follow you in your journey and find out when you're about to drop music?
Okay, so Instagram is A Student of Life, all one word. You ever looking for me, just Google me, baby. A Student of Life. Twitter, A Student of Life _. Really right now, Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud is where I'm at. I try to limit my social media interaction. But yeah, right now that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, that was Jordan P., a student of life. It means Diamond B, you're tuned into the Kickback Reloaded.